Well, Cohen's lawyers were hoping that their client would be spared any jail time. They tried to paint him as a good man, a man who made mistakes when he represented Mr. Trump, but who has since been reformed and cooperated with the government. But federal prosecutors believe that he is someone who tried to undermine democracy for his own profit, and they were asking the judge for a substantial sentence. Now, he faced anywhere from 4 to 5 years, so this 3-year sentence, this is a victory for the Justice Department in this case. Now, the special counsel says that Cohen has cooperated with them, that he has been useful to them in their investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 campaign, but that was not enough to get him really any leniency here. So at the end of the day, even though he has cooperated against the President of the United States, he really doesn't have a lot to show for that cooperation with this sentence.
Yeah, so Paula, explain this for us, because Cohen has sort of said that he fully flipped and has sort of gone entirely the other way, but there's not a long-term cooperation agreement in place, right?
That's right, and that's a big discrepancy. Cohen's attorneys say he has fully cooperated, but federal prosecutors say he has not fully cooperated. They say they do not believe that he has shared everything he knows about crimes that were committed, and that's why they did not seek leniency in this case. That's part of why they were asking the judge for a substantial sentence. And here the judge, in laying out an explanation for this sentence, said, look, these are crimes that deserve a substantial punishment, and just because you cooperated with the special counsel doesn't mean you should be absolved of responsibility for these many crimes.
Okay, so again, repeating the breaking news at this hour, Michael Cohen has been sentenced to 3 years in prison in Manhattan for his crimes. Paula, explain to us then why Michael Cohen, if you're Michael Cohen's legal team or you're Michael Cohen, why you wouldn't then just go one way or the other completely and either hope for a presidential pardon or fully cooperate long term.
Well, let's go back to August. That's when Cohen decided, remember, this is a man who said he would take a bullet for the president, but back in August he decided that suddenly he would start cooperating with federal prosecutors. But that was the same time when it became clear federal prosecutors had enough evidence to charge him with several crimes ranging from tax fraud, bank fraud, campaign finance violations. He says that he agreed to cooperate in the interest of his country and his family, but really this was the only way that he was going to get his sentence reduced. There was always the chance of a presidential pardon, but he says both financially and for his family, he did not want to fight this through a trial and possibly a conviction and wait for that pardon. But again, he says he did not want to fully cooperate because of his family. He didn't want to enter into a long-term deal because of his family, but it's not exactly clear if that explanation really pans out. Ultimately, federal prosecutors say they believe that he still has knowledge of potential crimes that he has not shared with them.
Okay. Paula Reed, stand by. I want to go to Weijia Jiang, who is at the White House right now. And Weijia,
Jeff, I lost you for 1 second, but I can tell you we are anxiously waiting for reaction from President Trump or the White House, and we're certainly expecting something because he has been so vocal in the days leading up to today, working to set the stage for what we saw unfold in that Manhattan courtroom as simply a platform for Michael Cohen to continue lying to save himself and to get lesser time behind bars. He has worked to distance himself also from Michael Cohen and for the crimes that Cohen will now serve time for, specifically when it comes to those hush money payments for the 2 women who are accusing the president of having affairs with them. On Friday, when the Southern District filed sentencing memos as guidance for what was going to happen to today, the president said in the third person, totally clears the president. But in fact, it did the opposite. It implicated him because prosecutors drew a direct line between Cohen and then candidate Trump, saying that Cohen acted in coordination and at the direction of individual one, which we now know, of course, is Donald J. Trump. And so what this means for President Trump is very critical, even though he has tried to paint himself as a victim. And he called this a very simple transaction and said, even if this was a campaign finance violation, it's not my fault. It's because I had a bad lawyer. It's because Cohen didn't tell me, and I should not serve any time for this because I didn't do anything wrong. So that's something we are closely watching for because this, again, is such a close tie between the president and now what Cohen is serving time for, Jeff.
Okay, Weijia, thank you very much. Once again, Michael Cohen gets now 3 years in prison. Back to Paula Reed down at the courthouse. And so, Paula Reed, talk about the two different paths then as well, because you're talking about the Southern District, prosecutors in the Southern District of New York, but then also the special counsel.
That's right. He has two different cases. One is with federal prosecutors here in New York. He entered a plea deal with them back in August. But then he surprised everyone a couple weeks ago when he entered another plea deal, agreeing to cooperate with the special counsel investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 campaign. And it was interesting, both of those cases brought back different reviews in terms of his cooperation. The special counsel says he provided useful, credible information to them in their investigation. But the federal prosecutors say they don't believe he was fully cooperative. They think he is still withholding some information, again, about these possible campaign finance violations. Now, as Weijia mentioned, last night the president came out and he said, Cohen was my personal lawyer. He should know the campaign finance laws. And once again, the president denies that this hush money paid to his mistresses, that was in any way a campaign finance violation. He says that was a personal payment. But because this has nothing to do with Russia, all of the campaign finance stuff, that is being handled by those federal prosecutors here in New York. It is separate and apart from the special counsel investigation. But both federal prosecutors and the special counsel both found a useful witness in Mr. Cohen.
Okay. Paula Reed outside the courthouse there in New York City for us in Lower Manhattan this morning. Paul, appreciate all of your reporting on this story. And, of course, we will be talking to you again throughout the afternoon. So to repeat, Michael Cohen, President Trump's former lawyer, has just been sentenced to 3 years in federal prison for crimes that included payments to Mr. Trump's alleged mistresses. Much more on all of this story on your local news on this CBS station, on our 24-hour streaming service, CBSN, and then we'll have a full wrap-up, of course, on the CBS Evening News tonight. Until then, I'm Jeff Glor, CBS News in New York.